The RAWM Leviathan V4 might be the best value mouse that I have ever owned. But does it outclass the Viper V3 Pro? Like the Leviathan itself, let's take a deep dive and find out if it does. Whew.
Spike down B.
Funny.
Open up the sky!
One enemy.
Scaling up, scaling up, good.
It's always B.
Spike down B. One enemy remaining.
Nice.
Apologies for the cringe introduction. I'm hoping y'all didn't click out because of that. Let's get into the review, shall we? For a quick disclaimer, RAWM did not send me this copy, although I wish they did. I paid for this mouse with my own money. Furthermore, I want to preface that although I'm going to glaze the absolute crap out of this mouse, and I do believe it's main worthy for the price, it is not my main, and we're going to get into that in just a second. So, as per usual, let's go over the overall packaging in just a second. Let me go do my editing magic. As usual, let's go over the packaging. RAWM's packaging for the V4 is minimalistic, but shines in the details that they put in their little slidable cover here, with its cool blue accents and little wave effect right here. And once you open the box, you're going to see where the mouse is supposedly supposed to be within the sleeve, as well as some covers for the bottom of the mouse, so it would be right here in the center. And once you pick that up and take off the bottom, you're going to be able to access where the wire as well as the AK dongle is going to be as well. And their wire is very, very high quality. Even the texture of the actual wire and overall use is it feels high quality. So there's nothing to doubt regarding RAWM's kind of wiring here. And not just that, you're also going to have a pair of grips here. And that is basically it for the packaging. While the design of the box is amazing, I do wish they included an extra pair of skates like most other mice do these days. But given the quality of the skates already on the mouse, I am not upset at not having an extra pair. And we'll get into kind of the quality of the skates in just a second and why I believe that's the case, you know. Now that we got the packaging out of the way, let's get into what I think is the coolest part about this mouse: the dongle. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is one of the only dongles that allow for you to physically switch the polling rate on the dongle. It has a little kind of like indicator right here. 800, 500, 1000, 2000, 4000, and 8000 hertz polling rate, as well as a little button on the top of your dongle for which you're capable of swapping the polling rate on the fly. Now, that is a really neat feature that, as I said earlier, I have yet to see any other company really do. Now, if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments, but this is very cool feature. I bet you guys are hearing in the background the window is telling me about how the USB is disconnecting. That's going to happen, but I just think that's a really cool feature to have on a dongle and very convenient. Now, did I use this feature? No. But is it convenient? Yes. So for people like me who do a lot of tests on their mouse and kind of just do things on the fly, it's so convenient to just press the button, boom, 2000 hertz polling rate, right? So that is a cool part about the mouse that I think that many other companies, if possible, should try implementing. And RAWM did a really cool job about doing it. So let me put the dongle down. All right. After connecting the dongle, you can turn on your V4 on by pressing or holding the bottom power/DPI button down here for a couple of seconds, and voila, the V4 is now on, and it is truly a spectacle to behold. I mean, look at that colorway, man. RAWM did an amazing job with this one, with this colorway right here, and even though it does have like little siggles on the side, if you guys can see, it didn't really bother me having on the side of the mouse I actually kind of really like how the look of these sigils on the side, even though it would be a little bit cleaner to not have them. I personally really like them. I think it gives a really cool accent and very cool, like, kind of like look to the mouse. All right, so do be warned about the glossy blue colorway. It can get very obvious when the mouse gets dirty or greasy. I don't know if you guys can see on the camera, but there is a little marks, as you would see on like kind of like a black colored mouse, where it has a lot of smudges and a lot of kind of grease on the mouse. So, but that aside, the coating of the mouse is how you'd expect a mouse with this glossy finish would feel. It feels cool in the hand, and that's apparently because they have a cool coating called Therma, like a Therma cool coating, I believe. And while it does keep cool, it can get a little slippery with some gameplay, or if you're deft gripping this thing. Now, with someone who deft grips and has very sweaty hands, aka me, the coating does get a pass from me. It works. It's not my favorite coating, but it works. My hands are going to be very capable of kind of like gripping onto the mouse due to the coating. It feels nice in the hand. It feels high quality in the hand, and I think that's why it gets a pass from me. On to, in my opinion, what makes this mouse punch way higher than any mouse in its price range: the clicks and scroll wheel. The TTC optical micro switches in this mouse are chef's kiss. From the main clicks to the side buttons, they're just so snappy with little to no posts or pre-travel, and they feel so satisfying to click. Does this possibly mean they skipped out on the scroll wheel? Yes and no. The scroll wheel in the RAWM V4 is a Rayshaw optical wheel, which at first glance sounds like a complete bummer. As many of us have had experience with the Rayshaw optical switches, it's not the best switch, but it gets the job done, So in this case, you might think, oh my god, it's a complete bummer to have Rayshaw optical wheel. But in this case, the scroll wheel implementation on this mouse is quite the opposite. Each bump is definable while maintaining a very smooth experience, and the click of the scroll wheel is tight and fairly spammable. I like the scroll wheel, and I believe it fits the overall kind of like the other clicks on the mouse pretty well. If you were to nitpick, the scroll wheel does take a little bit more pressure to click as opposed to other mice, but the little post travel definitely makes up for it. So after you put a little pressure on, press it, it bounces up quickly. Overall, RAWM has slayed the implementation of their clicks on the V4, very easily competing with mice that are double its price. And I just think that's amazing. It's so fine-tuned. Each click, like left click, right click, scroll wheel here, the side buttons, all of it just feel snappy. It feels satisfying to click. So shout out to RAWM for their incredible scroll and click implementation. I'm gonna go ahead and do a sound test in just a second. Now let's talk about the skates. The skates are the cherry on top of an already incredible package. The skates are huge PTFE skates that are very similar to Tiger Eye skates that are very smooth and so easily kind of like glides on both cloth and glass pads. If you guys can't tell, right here is the Singularity by Tekusai, and it goes by smoothly, very, very smoothly. And even on cloth pads like my Saturn Pro or my Artisan Zero Soft, it glides so smoothly. I definitely need to see more mainstream companies include higher quality skates instead of skimping on them, because these are just amazing right out of the box. As such, I'm not surprised why they didn't include a second pair of skates. Like earlier I said, like, oh man, if I was being nitpicky, I would love an extra pair of these skates. The reason why that I'm not upset is because these already are incredible right out of the box. And so if they didn't, I'm not upset. These are amazing. So shout out to RAWM for these amazing skates that feel like Tiger Ice V2s. The RAWM V4 is a medium to large size mouse that is practically a clone of the Viper V3, with kind of like a less aggressive or sharp curves than the Viper V3 Pro. So I can go ahead and pull up an elo shapes to kind of compare the difference, but this is going to have a little bit less of an aggressive curve and more of kind of like a softer curve around even all the edges around the mouse. And you know what? That's not the only similarity. So the RAWM V4 is only 1 gram heavier at like 55 grams in comparison to the V4, which is going to be 54 grams. When it comes to grip styles, although I do have small hands, I have a 17.5 by 8.5 centimeters, kind of a hand size. The most natural grip I can get on this mouse is an aggressive claw grip. If you guys are familiar with Zekken, it's very similar to how Zekken uses his Viper V3 Pro. So very much like a very aggressive claw grip here. Personally, it was very difficult for me to get into the groove with a relaxed claw like this, and especially difficult for me to try to use a faithful fingertip style on this mouse, because its weight and its size for me is not suitable for fingertip grip. But I'm sure a majority of you can do a relaxed claw just fine with no problems, but maybe a little bit less kind of sure on most people being able to do a fingertip grip on this mouse. Personally, the curves for this mouse is very comfortable in comparison to the V3 Pro by Razer, but it definitely feels more locked in than the original V3 shape. So if you were to get the Viper V3, I feel like you have a little bit more flexibility on how you want to move the mouse with your hand, whereas in comparison, this feels a little bit more locked in. Like how a lot of people kind of describe the U2 DW, where when you put your hands on the U2 DW, you are locked into the grip that the mouse is made for. Very similarly, I feel like that's the case with the RAWM V4, where it's like, once you put your hand on the mouse, it kind of locks you into a specific grip. And for that very reason, I kind of feel like it is not my favorite shape, just because I prefer a comfortable, relaxed claw. And for me, it feels a little bit uncomfortable for my very small hands. So while it does work really well with aggressive claw, it just does not work for me personally for a relaxed claw. Alright, so now we're going to quickly go over the RAWM Hub web, where you're going to be easily able to change the configuration of your Leviathan V4. So we can go ahead and go to rawmtech.com/hub_html. You're going to appear on this screen where you're able to click on the mouse. Now, you're going to be for most people, you're going to be starting on the standard channel. Make sure you guys swap over to the RAWM Gaming, where you're going to have a bunch of different extra options, or kind of like for instance, let me show you right now what the standard looks like. So it's going to reboot the mouse real quick. We're going to be able to enter, and just like that, we're able to, let me see, sorry about that. Just like that, first you're going to see a couple of things that are kind of different. For instance, the performance mode is going to be changed slightly. The key delay isn't going to be as kind of like focused as well, and I believe the performance on this channel is not going to be as responsive as if you were going to do RAWM Gaming. So make sure you change to RAWM Gaming on the top. So after you reboot the mouse and go into RAWM Gaming, you're going to be capable of changing your DPI speed, which in this case you're able to do by steps, by the way. So you can do 1601 DPI. And 2 or 3 or 4 and so on, which is very cool. And the very same thing can be done for polling rate, which I feel is another great innovation done by RAWM. Look at this, where you're going to be capable of changing accurately by steps of 1, polling rate of 1001. That is an incredible suit of innovation by RAWM. I think that's amazing. I think that many companies should try to do that as well, because some people maybe want to do 1500 polling rate instead of 2000. Maybe your PC can't really handle going up to 4000, so you do 3000. I think that's an incredible kind of new feature added to the Leviathan V4. Now, going down here, you're going to be also capable of changing your performance mode. Now, if you are using a glass pad, which I am right now, I just changed to the glass pad, so I didn't have glass mode enabled. Make sure you enable glass mode. Do I know the exact kind of change of how it feels compared to not using glass mode? Not necessarily, but it does feel a little bit more floaty if you don't use glass mode on a glass pad. You also are going to have HP as well as Gaming Plus. Now, if you want the absolute best scan rate, I believe you would go on Gaming Plus. But for me, I've had a fair usage of high power as well. So between the two, it's really up to you and your use case. I use HP, but for this video, we can go ahead and just leave it on Gaming Plus for you guys. I personally didn't have any issues with the liftoff distance. Be sure to kind of keep note of that some people had issues with the liftoff distance and how they calibrated that. Now over here, you're also going to have angle snapping, ripple control, motion sync. I make sure to turn off all of those in my use case because I don't really like ripple control, angle snapping, and motion sync. I don't like it as well. Let's go over the next very unique kind of feature for the RAWM Tech Hub and the Leviathan V4, which is wireless turbo. Now this setting, I would recommend keeping it on, but each mode is going to have a different use case. For instance, mode 1 is going to have be better for 2.4 receivers that are far from the Wi-Fi router or other wireless devices, or mode 2 is going to be for areas where there's a lot of wireless devices, and mode 3 is going to be better for receivers close to the Wi-Fi router or other wireless receivers. But in this case, in my opinion, just leave it on auto. Don't stress out too much. It has not given me any issues just leaving it on auto, basically. You can also set sleep time here for 1 minute in my use case, but you can do longer or shorter. But 1 minute is good for me. I don't really mind. Angle tuning. You can set the degrees at which kind of like the mouse, the sensor is angled. I don't really use that. I kind of like, even though the mouse is big in my hand and it kind of has an angle, I do prefer it being at 0. And the key delay, another cool thing about this mouse is that you're able to kind of change how long the press and the release is separately. So the press can be a debounce of 2, and then the release can be a debounce of 1. I just put it on 0. It has not caused any problems, but I also think that's a very cool feature where you can change the debounce time separately of the press and the release. That is very cool. Now, that should be it for RAWM Hub Web, except for maybe if you're looking for a firmware update. I don't really know. I haven't seen where you can update the Leviathan V4. As far as I know, there is no firmware update, so the mouse is going to come at the most updated right out of the box. But I've checked basically everywhere for where I can possibly update the RAWM V4, even downloading the actual software, and I wasn't able to find where you can update it. So my guess is that this is the latest software and firmware for this mouse. So just to let you guys know that right out of the box, it's going to come out with the latest firmware. Of course, now we have to talk about the performance of the Leviathan V4. It has a PixArt PAW 3950, a Nordic MCU, a native dual 8K performance, so basically you're going to be able to use it on 8K wireless and wired, and apparently up to 150 hours of battery life. I personally have never noticed the need to charge the mouse. Every night I kind of just leave my mice plugged into my PC to charge overnight, so I can't really speak on the 150 hours of battery life. I can only assume that the battery life is going to be at about 150 hours for 1000 hertz polling rate or standard polling rate. So I mean, for my use case, I personally have never needed to use charge the mouse. The overall quality and performance feels really good in the hand. This sensor implementation is decent enough to not see any major issues, but it's definitely not as fine-tuned as, like, for instance, ATK's implementation, or especially Razer's. So we all know that Razer has the top of the line sensors compared to other mice. So we already know that we can assume that the RAWM V4 is not going to have the best sensor implementation, but it works perfectly fine. You're not going to notice any huge hitches in the performance. You're not going to see pixel skipping or anything like that. It works perfectly fine with the 3950 inside of the mouse. It's just not as fine-tuned as or snappy as the ATK's implementation or Razer's implementation. So overall, it's a very solid mouse and solid value package that gets really close to punching with the big fishes. And in direct comparison with the Viper V3, in my opinion, very easily takes it for me. It is better than the Viper V3 for me. And I've had I've had two Viper V3s, and I've sold both because I believe it's just not worth the price in comparison to something like the RAWM V4, which I got for $82. Now, it does take it for me, but is the performance and latency as good as the V3? No. It's close enough, but it is not as good as a V3 in terms of performance and latency. Does it have an online driver? Yes. Now, as of this recording, I do know that the Razer's working on an online driver, but still, I'm gonna give the point to RAWM for having an online driver in comparison to the Razer V3, which doesn't have an online driver. You can't change the settings on the mouse without downloading Razer Hub, which I just absolutely hate nowadays. Call it privilege, but I prefer mice that can do online software now. I just think it's the new standard. Is the click implementation arguably better? Yes, I think that the click implementation on the V4 is just way better than the Viper V3 Pro. It's a lot snappier than the optical switches in the Viper V3. So is even the dongle better? Yes! It's even the dongle, I believe, is better. It has a button on here that and it indicates what polling rate it's on. I just think overall it is better than the Viper V3 in terms of packaging for the price. Now, yes, while I do glaze the heck out of this mouse, I don't see myself maining it myself with my small hands that are unable to get the type of consistent grip that I want out of this mouse. Now, but even so, I can 100% recommend this mouse from an objective point of view to many people looking for a more affordable, incredible V3 clone that practically takes the cake and eats it. I'm actually really excited to see the upcoming Viper V4 Pro so that I can compare the Leviathan V4 here to the updated version in an updated video. And I will be keeping this beauty until then. That should tell you that this mouse is worth the $82 that I paid for it. It's so solid and it's very mainable. It is almost not as distinguishable as compared to like a Pulsar mouse. It feels, in terms of quality, just the same. So even though I'm not sponsored, this is my go-to recommendation, as many other people have, for a quality mouse under $100. This is amazing. So if you're looking for a medium to large size mouse for claw grip, this is the one. Alright, so that's going to be my review for the Leviathan V4 by RAWM. Overall, it's just an amazing package, guys. For $82, you're getting a very, very, very great mouse with no QC issues, solid performance, great, or shall I say amazing click implementation and scroll wheel implementation, a very unique dongle, and incredible stock skates right out of the box. All of it for $82 is just an absolute steal. So guys, this is the new standard for budget mice under $100. So thank you guys so much for watching my reviews. I appreciate the support on my first review on the ATK V2 Ultimate, and I hope you guys continue to look out for more of my reviews, including maybe more reviews on ATK products, or more budget products, or even more mainstream products that are coming up this upcoming year. Guys, please stay tuned. I'm doing my absolute best to bring these reviews out to you, and I hope you guys enjoyed my video. Please leave in the comments what you guys would like to see me review next, and I'll see you guys soon. Woo!